At 2 o'clock in the morning, a horrific shooting massacre is about to occur in an American police station. This old man seemed to look very similar to the fugitive murderer. Not only did the fat man not become alert, he even asked the old man to come forward to check, unaware that the danger had already arrived. Just as the fat man fell to the ground, 2 first responders suddenly burst in. The cunning old man hurriedly came forward to greet him. He lied that the fat man was seriously injured, and waited until the 2 of them were ready to start first aid before shooting him in the back. The old man relied on his harmless appearance to kill 3 people in just 1 minute. He had just sat down to calm down his excitement when a rookie policeman walked into the hall. He looked confused. Although he was alert, he did not pull out his gun immediately, giving the old man another chance. The old man's name is Anthony. He is an extremely perverted professional killer who is very good at disguise and kills people like crazy. The purpose of this trip is to earn a huge reward and hunt down a prisoner hiding in the police station. Just as he was secretly chuckling, female police detective Sophie arrived with a gun. Anthony didn't panic at all. He suddenly raised his hand and made a move. Sophie knew that she would not be able to fight head-on, so she quickly moved to the dungeon downstairs. He first shot to suppress Anthony, and then broke the electronic lock to delay. Anthony also began firing wildly at the glass door. Fortunately, the glass was made in China, which bought Sophie some time to quickly change the password of the explosion-proof door. Unexpectedly, the equipment is old, runs slowly, and writing new passwords takes too much time. At this time, the glass door was already overwhelmed. Anthony kicked the glass to pieces. Fortunately, the submachine gun ran out of bullets, and Sophie reluctantly hid in the dungeon. But something unexpected happened, and Sophie was hit in the abdomen by a bullet. She was losing a lot of blood and was in critical condition. He tried his best to remove the first aid kit and treat the wound simply to avoid shock, but if he didn't remove the bullet, he would die sooner or later. The irony is that at this time, his only hope of survival can only be pinned on the prisoners Teddy and Mike, and Anthony's purpose is to kill Teddy and silence him. It turns out that he is a ruthless person who walks among the police, politicians, and businessmen, using various means to help his employer achieve his goals. However, he encountered a hard investigation in his last mission. The Attorney General of Nevada was unreasonable and even recorded his conversation as evidence in an attempt to eradicate the shadowy gang-like group. Unexpectedly, the shadow group had many eyes and ears, so they struck first and killed the prosecutor general, but the recording of the conversation had been disseminated. Teddy is the only living client. As long as he is killed and silenced, he will die without any evidence and survive the car explosion. Teddy also realized that something was wrong, so he deliberately attacked the police and was arrested and jailed. He wanted to hide in the police station to avoid the limelight, but his actions were seen by Killer Mike, who followed closely and deliberately rammed the police car and was also taken away. He was temporarily detained at the police station. Unexpectedly, before he could take action, the group sent Anthony to bloodbath the police station. What was even more troublesome was that the police station also had an insider from the group. Just as Anthony stormed the dungeon room, policeman Lacey suddenly drew his gun and shot the sergeant in the head. Even the dying prisoner next door was not spared. Fortunately, Sophie changed the password of the blast door, otherwise the consequences would be disastrous. The blast door was as strong as tank armor, and ordinary light weapons were useless. After Anthony and the others found the prison structure diagram and studied it, they found that the only weak point was a wall on the north side of the dungeon, which was only 1 foot thick of solid cement. But there was no one who could take advantage of them, so the 2 of them didn't dare to delay at all, so they could only pick up the hammer and smash it against the wall. Although the efficiency is low, it is only a matter of time before it breaks through the wall, and the bursts of knocking sound make people shudder. Sophie knew she couldn't sit still and wait for death, but Teddy was a liar and Mike was a bloodthirsty killer. He had to make a difficult choice between the 2. After a fierce ideological struggle, he finally threw the key to Teddy and took out his gun. He told Teddy to go to the police station lobby and bring the medical kit in time. As a veteran, Mike knew that Sophie's move was a big mistake. In order to prevent Teddy from walking away, he deliberately mentioned Teddy's family. It turned out that the group wanted to eradicate Teddy's family. Since Anthony appeared in police station, that would prove that Teddy's family had been killed, and Sophie had indeed received a notification that the bodies of a woman and a boy were found in the lake near Teddy's house. Although Teddy lives in the world and has a bad character, he cherishes his family very much. Sure enough, just as Mike thought, Teddy did not leave directly after going out, but looked for Anthony to avenge his family. At the same time, 2 unlucky guys who were out on the field did not go home and planned to spend the night at the police station. They heard loud noises and followed the sound to the basement. The scattered eggshells and submachine gun magazines suddenly made the 2 of them nervous. When they saw that it was Lacey who was smashing the wall, they were unprepared, but in the next second they were beaten into pieces. Anthony stepped forward to refill the gun and was extremely cruel, forcing Lacey to kill his colleagues with his own hands. Just when Lacey was about to take action, Teddy suddenly opened the door looking for the sound of gunfire. Angry, he picked up the submachine gun and chased into the shower room desperately. However, Anthony was very cunning. He cut off the power, turned on the sprinkler to confuse the audience, and played hide and seek with Teddy. Taking advantage of the gap between the 2 fighting each other, Lacey quickly ran away through the door. But just when he thought he was safe, someone suddenly snatched the gun from behind. It turned out that Sophie couldn't wait for Teddy, so she had to break the boat and release Mike. Lacey was beaten until she was dizzy, and then Mike shot him through both sides. Leg. Facing Lacey, who was begging for mercy, Mike showed no mercy. He first took out a laser gun and hit him, and then took out police pepper spray and sprayed it on the wound on his leg. In the shower room on the other side, Anthony hid for a long time before finally seizing the opportunity and shooting twice to knock down the strong man at the door. He thought he could kill Teddy successfully, but when he stepped forward, he turned out to be the unlucky Lacey, and he didn't realize at all that this was Mike's plan to attack the east and the west. Facing the sudden attack of Mike, Anthony was vulnerable. He was beaten severely and fell to the ground. When he couldn't beat him, he used dirty tricks. Unexpectedly, Mike took the knife and stabbed back with great pain. It turns out that Anthony's enemies have long offered a reward of $1 million for his head. As long as he kills Teddy, Mike's trip will kill 2 birds with 1 stone. But things are never that simple. Teddy suddenly appeared in the dark with a gun. Mike suggested that the two of them have a temporary truce and wait for him to kill the enemy before they show off again. He also took the initiative to put down his weapon. Unexpectedly, Teddy was not a martial artist at all. Virtue. Anthony was beaten into a pulp while wailing in pain. However, he did not keep his promise and return to the dungeon after his revenge. Instead, he spread gasoline all over the corridor, intending to reduce the police station to ashes and destroy all traces of corpses. Before leaving, I didn't forget to go to the kitchen to fill my stomach. Just as he was feasting, a familiar voice made him break into a cold sweat. Sophie has escaped from the dungeon with Mike's help, and the gunshot wound to her abdomen is not serious. He has requested support from his superiors. Both Teddy and the shadow group behind him will be brought to justice, but Teddy will not be taken lightly. Relying on the firepower of the submachine gun, Teddy rushed to the second floor to occupy the favorable terrain, and beat up Teddy, putting Sophie into a disadvantageous situation. What was even more annoying was that Teddy, who had run out of bullets, stared at the armory and took out a fully equipped automatic rifle. Sophie quickly changed into a set of bullets and got stuck in position before Teddy. Unfortunately, he was injured and missed his shots continuously, so he could only find a bunker to avoid the sharp attack. Seeing that Teddy was about to betray him, Sophie hid in the office in desperation. While Teddy was changing the magazine, she found a pistol from the sheriff's drawer. The raging flames blocked the steps downstairs, and Teddy had to rush for the emergency exit. After a thrilling exchange of fire, he lost his position and was targeted by Sophie. 2 bullets hit his shoulder and arm respectively. However, he fell heavily off the railing and was seriously injured. However, he had a strong desire to survive and quickly got up. Picking up the rifle and whipping it, he moved towards the door. However, as luck would have it, a violent explosion occurred when he was about to escape, and his injured body was severely damaged again, and Sophie was also blown away by the air wave. But unlike Teddy, he was a blessing in disguise when he picked up a bullet with just the right caliber. As the bullets of justice escaped, Teddy completely lost his ability to move. Sophie picked up the rifle and walked to his face, ready to end his life of crime. But the next second, Sophie never expected that the superior she had finally waited for would be a member of the shadow group. Now seriously injured, he can only wait for death. The plot suddenly took a turn. It turned out that Mike was not killed, but was shot in multiple places and temporarily fainted. Fortunately, Teddy's fire woke him up from his coma. At this moment, he had cut off Anthony's head, and Teddy's piece of fat was right next to his mouth. Mike was very principled in his actions. He only did not kill Sophie. He admired Sophie's bravery very much. Even if the two of them had to fight, they could not win while he was injured. At this moment, the sun has risen. Mike steals a police car before being surrounded by a large number of police, escapes, and goes straight to the New York team to pay a reward of tens of millions. Sophie also receives timely treatment. The movie is coming to an end, but the story of the two may have just begun.